Urban legends often sprout from the fertile ground of tragedy, their roots entangled in the mysteries of unexplained deaths and unresolved cases. One such legend, both chilling and compelling, centers around the untimely death of Sarah Porter. Her tragic fall from her apartment balcony has become the subject of fearful whispers and macabre dares. This is the story of Sarah Porter, the haunted balcony, and the lethal legend that continues to frighten and fascinate. Sarah Porter was a young woman with a promising future, living in a high-rise apartment in the heart of the city. On a cold, stormy night, her life came to an abrupt end when she plunged from her balcony. The police ruled her death a suicide, but rumors soon spread that something more sinister had occurred. Friends and family continuously denied that Sarah had any reason to take her own life. She was described as cheerful, ambitious, and full of plans for the future. Witnesses reported seeing a shadowy figure on her balcony just moments before she fell. Toby Lofton, Sarah's neighbor in the apartment below hers, reported to police he thought he had heard 2 sets of footsteps in her apartment a short time before the incident. However, no one could identify a person, and the security cameras in the building mysteriously malfunctioned that night. With no concrete evidence, the police closed the case, labeling it a suicide. A week after Sarah Porter's tragic fall, Toby Lofton was attempting to settle into his usual evening routine. The events of that night still haunted him, but he tried to push the unsettling memories aside. As he sat down to watch television, a faint noise interrupted the silence of his apartment. At first, he thought it was just some teenagers being loud in the main hallway, but as he muted the TV, he realized the noise was coming from above. It sounded like a muffled conversation, as if 2 people were speaking in hushed tones in Sarah's apartment. Toby strained to make out any words but couldn't decipher the dialogue. The voices continued for several minutes, growing slightly louder and more agitated before abruptly stopping. Toby knew that Sarah's apartment had been sealed off by the police and should have been empty. His mind raced with possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. He decided to report the incident to the building's management, but they found no one when they checked the apartment. A few nights later, Toby was awakened by a loud thud coming from Sarah's apartment. Startled, he glanced at the clock. It was just past 2 a.m. Heart pounding, he listened closely, and soon heard what sounded like something being dragged across the floor. The noise was unmistakable, heavy, and deliberate. Gathering his courage, Toby positioned himself on his balcony directly below Sarah's. He listened intently as the sounds continued, and eventually he heard what he thought was the sliding door onto her balcony open. Moments later, he believed he heard the sliding door above close, and then footsteps, and then complete silence. Toby called the police. After a routine search of the apartment, they found nothing had been disturbed. Toby couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was still in Sarah's apartment. The events of those nights deepened the mystery surrounding her death, leaving him to wonder if her spirit was trying to reveal the truth about what really happened that stormy night. Less than a month later, Toby moved out of his apartment and has never been heard from since. As with many urban legends, the story of Sarah Porter's death evolved, taking on a life of its own. Whispers of a vengeful spirit began circulating among the residents of her building, and then to the surrounding community. The tale grew more elaborate with each retelling, until it culminated in the form of a dangerous dare. If you stand at the edge of any high place and say, "Sarah Porter jumped," 4 times, her ghost will appear and push you off. Most people, if they attempt the dare at all, stop at the 3rd repetition, too afraid to tempt fate any further. The story is often recounted at parties or around campfires, a modern-day equivalent of calling on Bloody Mary in a darkened mirror. Yet, unlike the mirror game, the legend of Sarah Porter has a fatal twist, one that has allegedly claimed lives. Incident 1. The viral video. In the age of social media, it was only a matter of time before someone attempted to capture the legend on video. The first documented case involves two best friends, Alex and Jamie, who decided to film their attempt at summoning Sarah Porter's ghost. They chose a well-known abandoned building on the outskirts of the city, notorious for its eerie atmosphere and high rooftop. As the camera rolled, Jamie approached the edge of the rooftop while Alex filmed from a safe distance. Jamie, in a voice shaky with nerves but laced with adrenaline, began the chant, "Sarah Porter jumped. Sarah Porter jumped. Sarah Porter jumped." He paused, looking back at Alex, who encouraged him to continue. With a gulp, Jamie said the words a fourth time, "Sarah Porter jumped." What happened next was captured in a grainy, night vision video that quickly went viral. Jamie seemed to stumble, but then, as if propelled by an invisible force, he was lifted off his feet and hurled over the railing. Alex's horrified screams filled the night as he dropped the camera, which continued to record the chaos. Jamie's body was found on a slab of broken concrete directly below where he had leaned over the rail of the roof. His death officially ruled as an accidental fall. However, the footage suggested something far more disturbing. The video of Jamie's death sparked a heated debate. Skeptics argue that the video was staged, a gruesome hoax designed to garner attention and views. They point to the lack of clear evidence of any supernatural presence and suggest that Jamie simply lost his balance or was pulled by a gust of wind. Believers, however, are convinced that the video is proof of Sarah Porter's vengeful spirit. They argue that the force and direction of Jamie's fall are inconsistent with a mere slip or stumble. Paranormal investigators have analyzed the footage frame by frame, noting anomalies such as flickering shadows and an unexplained jumbled mass of pixels right behind the victim just before Jamie was pushed. Jamie's death, sensationalized by the viral video, has not deterred thrill seekers from attempting the dare. Over the years, several other incidents have been reported, each adding to the legend's ominous reputation. Incident 2. The High School Dare. A group of high school friends gathered at an old water tower on the outskirts of town, a popular spot for dares and late-night escapades. Encouraged by peer pressure and teenage angst, one of the boys, Mark, decided to take on the Sarah Porter challenge. His friends watched as he stood precariously on the narrow ledge and began the chant. Mark hesitated after the first three, then looked back at his friends with a mix of fear and defiance. They egged him on, and with a deep breath, he completed the dare. Sarah Porter jumped. What happened next was not captured on any devices. The witness statements were all officers had to go off of, and the case was closed as an accidental death. Incident 3. The Twin Sisters. In another tragic case, twin sisters Emily and Jessica decided to test the legend on the balcony of their 9th floor apartment. With Emily holding the camera, Jessica bravely stepped to the edge and began to chant, "Sarah Porter jumped. Sarah Porter jumped. Sarah Porter jumped." As she hesitated before the fourth repetition, Emily urged her to continue. Jessica, visibly terrified, finally said, "Sarah Porter jumped." According to Emily, Jessica was suddenly pulled backward, her feet lifting off the ground, as if yanked by an unseen hand. Emily dropped the camera and lunged forward, but it was too late. Jessica was, what Emily described as, thrown over the railing and plunged to her death. The camera, later recovered by the police, captured the haunting scene but offered no clues as to what force had propelled Jessica over the edge. Emily, traumatized and inconsolable, insists to this day that something pushed her sister. Incident 4. The Daredevil's Demise. Professional stuntman and thrill seeker Tom, known for his dangerous and often reckless stunts, decided to take on the Sarah Porter Dare as part of a viral video challenge. With a team of fellow stunt performers and a professional camera crew, Tom chose a high-rise construction site for the ultimate test. Standing on a precarious steel beam high above the city, he began the chant. Sarah Porter jumped. Sarah Porter jumped. Sarah Porter jumped. The crew watched in tense silence as Tom paused and turned towards the cameras before the final chant. With a confident smile, he said, Sarah Porter jumped. His eyes staring at the cameras and crew still standing on the steel beam. Nothing happened. His confident smile comes back, and he shrugs his shoulders for all those watching. With a feeling of comfort and control, Tom turns at the waist, facing the original direction he uttered the first three chants. Almost immediately, he was thrown off the beam with such force that witnesses were left in shock. The cameras captured every detail, showing Tom's body being hurled sideways, far beyond what could be explained by a simple loss of balance. His death, ruled an accidental fall by the authorities, only added to the legend's terrifying credibility. Incident 5. The Midnight Radio Host. Late-night radio host Chris, known for his paranormal talk show, decided to take on the Sarah Porter Dare live on air. Broadcasting from the roof of his sixth-floor studio building, he invited listeners to join him on his journey into the supernatural. With his producer recording from the studio inside, Chris stood at the edge and began to chant, Sarah Porter jumped. Sarah Porter jumped. Sarah Porter jumped. Listeners could hear the tension in his voice as he hesitated before the final repetition. Feeling the pressure of putting on a good show, Chris finally said, Sarah Porter jumped. There was a sudden, chilling silence on the broadcast, followed by a scream, rushing wind, and the sound of the microphone slamming into the ground. Emergency crews took almost an hour to retrieve the DJ's mangled body from the tree that took his life. His death was officially ruled as a tragic accident. However, the live broadcast captured eerie static and faint whispers, fueling speculation that Sarah's spirit had claimed another victim. The recording, analyzed by sound engineers and paranormal experts alike, revealed unsettling details. Amidst the static, a faint, female voice can be heard whispering, "Help me. I didn't jump. He pushed me." The voice, barely audible and distorted, was dismissed by some as interference, but others were convinced it was Sarah Porter herself, trying to communicate the truth about her death. This eerie recording added a new layer to the legend, suggesting that Sarah's ghost was not merely vengeful, but also desperately seeking justice for her untimely demise. Urban legends like that of Sarah Porter tap into deep-seated human fears and fascinations. The story combines elements of mystery, tragedy, and the supernatural, making it compelling and memorable. It plays on the fear of the unknown and the idea that some deaths are so unjust they leave a mark on the world, a spirit seeking revenge or closure. Psychologically, the legend also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of tempting fate and the thin line between bravery and recklessness. The dare associated with Sarah Porter's ghost is a test of courage that few are willing to complete, reinforcing the idea that some boundaries should not be crossed. The legend of Sarah Porter has attracted the attention of numerous paranormal investigators. Equipped with an array of ghost hunting tools such as EMF detectors, thermal cameras, and EVP recorders, these investigators have conducted numerous sessions at the site of Sarah's death and other locations where the dare has been performed. While some investigators report no significant findings, others claim to have captured evidence of paranormal activity. One team recorded a chilling EVP that seemed to capture a faint female voice saying, "I didn't jump." Another group reported strange fluctuations in their EMF readings and sudden drops in temperature, consistent with the presence of a spirit. Despite these findings, definitive proof of Sarah Porter's ghost remains elusive. The lack of concrete evidence only fuels the legend, leaving it open to interpretation and further speculation. The legend of Sarah Porter is a testament to the power of storytelling and the human fascination with the unknown. Despite the passage of time and the lack of definitive answers, her story continues to captivate and terrify those who hear it. Whether viewed as a cautionary tale, a supernatural mystery, or a tragic ghost story, the legend of Sarah Porter remains an enduring part of urban folklore. As long as there are those willing to stand at the edge and utter the fateful words, the legend of Sarah Porter will live on. Her spirit, whether real or imagined, serves as a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead, and the dangers that lurk in the shadows of our world.